You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and today is a longtime friend, multiple times a guest on the podcast here, Michael Zakkour from 5 New Digital. We go back a long time, and I thought this was really apropos given last week's episode with Stephen Moy, where we're talking about the differences in Gen Z, Gen Alpha, as they're coming up and how they engage with brands and how brands need to engage with them. And as if digital marketing wasn't hard enough already, and branding, we get to shift everything again. And so Michael's got some great insights here. But Michael, I'll kick it over to you if you want to, do a brief intro on yourself, 5 New Digital. Like, I know you have a lot of things going on. So thanks, number one, for your time today. But yeah, I'll kind of kick it over to you.
Thanks, Aaron. Good to be back on the podcast. I don't know if this is the third or fourth time, and I think I was your first guest. I think I was the very first guest.
Yeah, no, 100%. You were. I think
so. Boy, it's come a long way, and so congratulations to you. It's I don't know, it's up there as one of the most popular podcasts out there dealing with tech and commerce, and so kudos to you, and thanks for having me back. Yeah, so I'm the founder and CEO of a company called 5 New Digital. We're a digital commerce, retail, and consumer lab. We work with brands, retailers, CPGs, manufacturers, and tech companies on navigating the path to growth, whether you're selling B2C or B2B, and how to leverage digital assets, tools, technologies, data science, marketing best practices. We also have a large international expansion group. And we really focus on working with brands on practical application of new strategies, tactics, and technologies to grow their businesses while lowering their costs of consumer acquisition, or in the case of B2B companies, lowering the cost of their customer acquisition. And that's certainly a problem that everybody is facing right now. And so that's a little bit of background. I'm also a managing director at a company called Sell-Side Group. We're an M&A firm. And I focus on mergers and acquisitions in technology, consumer products, virtual worlds, AI, and CPG.
So you're busy. I love it.
I'm busy.
I love it. So this, the conversations we've had in the past, which, I was kind of mentioning at the get-go, different ways to engage with newer generations. And what we've chatted about a bunch is like immersive commerce. And if you want to kind of kick us off with immersive commerce, what it is, how you view it, how brands should start thinking about it, because I know it's top of mind. And I'll give you a little bit of what the revelation for me was just, conversations with some pretty big brands earlier this week and talking about, well, what about gamification and what gamification means? And they flipped it to more of the gaming aspect. And we've got a group of a generation now that has grown up with Roblox, right? Maybe it's even Fortnite in that case, where they're actually hanging out together in a digital space, playing a game. And that's how they were thinking about gamification, as opposed to how I used to think about it. Like, how can you make this more fun and interactive? But what if you already have a game and you're getting it more fun and interactive and getting into that space as a whole? And that's where it clicked. Like, this is how brands need to think about it, which again, you're the perfect person because all of our conversations around the metaverse and what it looks like. So anyways, I'll kind of pause there.
Yeah, well, I've got the perfect focus group for that subject. My son, actually today is his 14th birthday. So I've watched him enter the gaming world going back about 5 years, and watched his journey in how he interacts with gaming, how he interacts with brands. He really got into Minecraft, years ago. Now he's into Fortnite and he's playing on Roblox, and it's where they socialize. It's where this group of teenagers, preteens, teenagers, post-teens, it's a key hangout spot for them. Now, interestingly, and as it relates to commerce, he and his friends also like to spend a lot of time at the local mall. And I'm starting to see a shift to, they're trying to balance this social interaction spaces between, physical environments like the mall and the gym, and they spend a ton of time on the soccer field. One thing that has definitely become apparent is that Snapchat is just zooming past everybody right now. They're really, this cohort spending, and if you look at the charts and the graphs, monthly active users for Snapchat and number of interactions have absolutely blown past every other social site for that cohort. So, and it's interesting, your last podcast focusing on how Gen Z and Gen Alpha are kind of coming into the world of consumerism. And I think it's that blend of, again, just using my son as an example. You talk about brand loyal. He is a Nike obsessive. Nike hats, Nike shirts, Nike shoes, Nike underwear, Nike soccer gear. He plays travel soccer. Nike, the tech line, he's obsessed with. And there is a direct correlation between his socialization through digital formats, the games he plays, and how well Nike reaches that audience through those mediums. So definitely a correlation there. Another thing I was told, I've been talking to a few brands as well about how they're approaching social these days. And someone just yesterday told me, I was asking them about, what their follower numbers look like across various platforms. And I was told they're not measuring or caring about the number of followers anymore, because among the teenage set, following is not cool anymore. It's sharing. So they're going to go on your Instagram account or your Snapchat or wherever you're putting that out there. And the value is not just in the follower numbers, it's actually in the share. And so if you look at how they're operating through Snapchat and the other social platforms and TikTok, there's very little following and tons of sharing. So I just think some practical advice for brands and merchandisers and sellers is focus less on creating follows and focus more on how do you create shares. So yeah, that's just a little bit of, what I'm seeing out there. And I know you have four kids all in that teen world as well. And I don't know if you're seeing the same thing with your kind of your own home focus group.
Yeah, I am. It's a new KPI to follow, and that's what it is. Yeah, and I totally agree. What's really unique is that they just have different places to go. Right now, the mall, totally get it, right? And that, in my mind, is, okay, I want to get outside of the house, and I want to go to someplace. I mean, I'm in Michigan, right? I want to go to someplace that's warm, in the wintertime. But what's really unique is, they will leave a setting. Like they're all in volleyball. So they'll leave a volleyball practice. And sometimes rather than going and hanging out together, they coordinate going to play, like my youngest, a game of Fortnite.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like you could just invite your friends over, but not all of them can make it over. So they think of, it's almost this inclusivity of, like, there's 5 of us, we all like to play together, and only 3 of it can make it. And in the old times, we'd be like, all right, sorry, hey, no big deal. But now they understand, like, not just the fear of missing out, but the fear of being left out, right, is the other side of it, which is they're looking at it, and now there's a concern around people around them. And so if we can't all do it together, we're going to go find an activity that we can do together. And just knowing that they're doing that, and the opportunity for brands to then start entering these spaces. And I totally agree. A lot of people say, oh, there's people love Nike. People love Nike because they're everywhere, right? And they get exposed to it. Yeah, they've got good products, but a lot of it is the marketing and the presence that they have. That's almost it's such a non-intrusive way of popping up wherever people are at.
Yeah,
That's what struck me.
absolutely, 100%. You nailed it. And it's not just anecdotal from what I'm seeing. We're studying this. We're working with our brands on studying this, and working with our clients on this. Doing our independent research. And what we're starting to see is actually a mashup of the physical and digital interaction, where three of them will come to somebody's house. But they're all going to whip out their phone and then maybe play Fortnite sitting around in the same room with three or four other people who are not in the room together. And so, I think there's this definite change and it's something, God, we've been talking about, right, for how many years? Like, from a commerce point of view, Aaron, we've been talking for years about the new retail, the complete integration of online, offline technology, content, and supply chain to create an commercial and social and technological ecosystem. And we've thought about it from, how does a brand or a retailer put that together? But it's almost been this from the ground up revolution of this is how people are interacting. They're doing their own integration of online, offline content and commerce, right? And so I think that's a great segue into, what I really want to focus a little bit on today. You opened up with, let's talk a little bit about immersive commerce.
Yes.
And
please.
How immersive commerce and what it is, why it's important, and why every brand, retailer, CPG, manufacturer, and tech company out there should be aware of it. So, to kind of summarize, what we've been seeing over the last few years is, if you kind of take the outlier spike in the increase of e-commerce during the COVID period out of the equation, in most cases, e-commerce for a lot of companies is either flat or it's deflating, or if it's growing at a loss. We'll lose a dollar on every sale, but we'll make it up in volume. Right. And we're seeing a lot of that now. And so there's this, a little bit of a depression in the online, offline, buying commerce paradigm right now. Part of the way we see it is a major problem is that the experience of buying online has not changed much in the last 6 to 10 years, right? Whether you open your phone or your laptop, it's still largely a two-dimensional, flat screen, non-immersive, non-interactive, scroll, click, look, scroll, click, read, buying experience. That's not shopping. That's not fun. That's not discovery. And that's not social. And so if we tie it back to what we were just talking about, whether we're talking about 14-year-olds or 30-year-olds or 50-year-olds, I think one of the lessons coming out of COVID is we are still social creatures and we desire human interaction, human touch, our presence. We are not living fully realized human lives without interaction. None of us can live in isolation. It's why people go insane when they're put in isolation in prison, right? And so I think that is where we're going with digital commerce, right? The numbers are flat in part because of inflation and macroeconomics, but if we take the experience, that's the real issue, right? And so immersive commerce is what we see as the evolution of e-commerce. E-commerce has been the same for 25 years. You're buying something on a screen in a flat, two-dimensional way where you're not interacting with other people. It's you, the screen, the picture, and the double click, right?
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
When we go to immersive commerce, now we start integrating things like live streams, shoppable video, shoppable blog, digital twins, virtual environments, avatars, setting up commerce sites that are social first, and then the commerce comes from that, right? The problem we've had in the West versus the East is we've tried to awkwardly bolt commerce onto social sites, where in the East, they start with commerce and they say, okay, now how do we make this a social, gamified, fun experience, whether it's group buying or live stream interaction. And so what we're seeing and what we're doing out in the field today is working with our clients to shift and add on all of the elements that will move you from static 2D boring digital shopping to 3D dynamic, immersive, experiential digital shopping. And that's the core of the concept behind immersive commerce. Now, immersive commerce doesn't supersede everything that paid media isn't important anymore, or a lot of the strategies and tactics and optimizations and what you're doing on social. It's not a complete replacement. But if you're going to have a chance to survive into the future, and you're not adding immersive commerce, you're going to have a very hard time growing, staying relevant, and more importantly, making margin and profitability.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think also that we're going to have brands that jump in early and they get the disproportionate wins. Because, I'm all for trial and error, testing and learning nonstop. And the brands that are still open to that are trying it, even as things are slowing down a little bit, budgets are getting tightened. You have to get a lot more strategic with what you're doing. And you can't just do the same old, right? I do believe in, back to the basics and getting all the basics in place. But on the front end, everything's changing so rapidly and the demands of these consumers are changing so rapidly that we have to be trying new things pretty much all the time. But what does it look like step one? What should brands, when they wrap up this podcast, are like, yeah, I totally agree. I need to start dabbling in immersive commerce was step one, I think, is what a lot of people, or what do I need to consider? Is this additional assets that I need, because creative assets are so expensive right now and they're being consumed at a faster pace. Anyways, I'd love to hear what is step one? And maybe you're like, actually, I've got 5 steps.
Yeah, no, I do have some steps in mind. The first is to embrace and understand what immersive commerce is. That's number one. And understand all the tools, technologies, and channels that are there. And to understand why you want to move to immersive commerce. It's a very, very clear-cut reason, okay? Whether you're an online retailer, an offline retailer, or somebody who does both, okay? Your mission is still the same. Create traffic, create conversions, grow basket size, and create LTV, right? That's your mission. The problem is the cost of doing that has risen between 100% and 400% over the last 4 years. Okay. So cost of acquisition, inflation. I'll tell you this, not only with my work at Sell Side Group and M&A, but I also work with Tompkins Ventures as an investor. And I'm an investor in early stage and growth companies. And I will tell you right now, I did a survey of PE firms and investors and family offices a couple of months ago. And the number one takeaway is none of them want to put their money into brands, consumer product companies, and D2Cs, right? If you talk to anybody in that world that's trying to raise capital in that world, they're all going to tell you they're having an awful time of it. And the number one reason they're given, the investors are saying this, because the cost of acquisition right now is so high, no brand can show me a clear path to profitability. That between the cost of acquisition and the cost of supply chain and logistics, we don't want to put our money there. Where they are putting their money is into companies who can show a path to lowered cost of acquisition and a path to profitability because they're doing something different. Okay. So this applies to whether you're a startup, a growth stage, or a legacy company. The economics demand that you add immersive commerce to your mix. Okay. So understanding that is number one. Number two, understanding what are the tools that you can use to lower CAC and increase traffic and conversions and ROI and ROAS. And they include everything from immersive QR commerce, live streaming. A big one right now where I've placed a lot of my bets and my future thinking on is shoppable content. Shoppable content. And the cornerstone of shoppable content is what I call V-commerce, video commerce. I don't know if e-commerce will become V-commerce or V-commerce will just become a major part of e-commerce, but let's look at a number here. 82% of all content consumed on the internet today is video. 82%. So when you're fighting for banner ads, you're fighting for page one rankings on Google, when you're paying for your Amazon marketing, you're paying for all that stuff that is completely static, that it's not video. So you're spending all this money, and yet 82% of what people are digesting online is in video. Hello. You want to go present the right product at the right place to the right people at the right place at the right time. And all of that is going into non-video assets when 82% of the content consumed is in video. So I think what companies really need to think about, the next step from immersive commerce is sitting down and saying, how do I develop a V-commerce strategy? And you can think about there are like 3 or 4 species, 3 or 4 types of V-commerce. The most well-known at this time is live streaming commerce, where you're having a set date and time. It might be LVMH dropping a limited edition set of bags, all sorts of live streaming. I don't think I need to explain to people. It's been around long enough. It's growing quickly. Another one is shoppable video. And I think this has a chance to actually equal or exceed the potential of live shopping. So there are companies out there that I'm working with that are my clients, or that are part of what we offer at 5 New Digital now, that can make literally any video shoppable. You can send them a 5-minute homemade clip from your iPhone, and within a couple of hours, they can insert the product page, the products into your video in the top left-hand corner. People are watching the video. They click on the image. They get a product description, some pictures, and a buy now button, right? So just think about the power of shoppable, and you can put it anywhere on your website, in marketplaces, in your social, and it's up and running 24/7. It's not appointment viewing. And the cool thing is you never have to leave the video to actually make the buy. So live streaming, shoppable video. Another thing that we're seeing is this mashup between marketing and commerce videos, right? So you're actually combining the two. You're doing a marketing video that offers the chance to buy in real time as well. And so those are 3 of, maybe 4 or 5, key video tools and channels you can use. And why would you not want to do it? Well, we see that conversion rates on live streaming, rather than being 3%, are usually around 15, 20, 25, even as high as 35% conversion rates. Return rates are 50 to 60% lower on video. We've also seen research internally that we've done, and some from big consulting firms, and Coresight has done some work on this too, that consumers report that 82% or 84% of the purchase, no matter where they make it, whether it's in a physical habitat or a digital habitat, were influenced by a video, right? Yeah. So I'll give you an example. We got a new Ford Explorer, and we had to buy the mats for the back to protect the floors in the back, and everything to protect. I went shopping digitally for these mats, and the brand and the company I ended up buying from was the company that ran videos showing people using it, installing it. And so ultimately, aside from price consideration, my purchase decision was made with company A over company B simply because they had a video. Good. And so that's the other thing. So we look at live streaming, shoppable video, marketing, commerce mashups, and video explainers. Conversion rates are through the roof with all of them. So, kind of in summary, immersive commerce, experiential commerce, and by the way, shoppable content in general, what Goop is doing, what Glossier is doing, this is really the key to getting back to margin and getting back to profitability, attracting investment, and, justifying the spend you're making on CAC.
Yeah, I think one of the thoughts out there, though, is that video in the past has been so expensive to create, and that this is raw, authentic, just almost UGC at times content that's created, that's being used. And it's not all of a sudden a massive photo shoot, a massive video shoot, and all the cash that pours into that. And the other side of it is, when we're talking about this, I know video reviews, right? I totally agree with you. This immersive space where in v-commerce is pouring its way. I mean, I think primarily thanks to TikTok, obviously, and YouTube, that people like short form, quick content as a whole. And now we're pushing into video reviews as a whole. People don't want to read anymore, right? Just, I want to see it, and I want to see somebody talking about it. I want to see them holding it in their hands. And is it the right color? Is it the right functionality? Is it hard to open? Are they sincere? Then you sold me.
82% of internet content consumed is video. Like, how many times can we say that, right? And so to that point, we're talking about these consumer journeys. The biggest fear, I think that's just belied by the evidence, is that video commerce and video is expensive, hard to do, and time consuming. I could name any number of companies. There's a company out there called Play, and they make it easy for anybody in your office within 25 to 35 minutes to make a professional 2 to 5 minute video, right? It's in your hands. There's another company out there called Shopsy. They can take any video that you produce, whether it's existing video, existing clips, or something you want to shoot on your iPhone, or something, with a more professional camera, and within 2 hours make that video shoppable for you to paste on every single thing that you do. So this idea that, doing video is expensive, time consuming, is just silly. It's just not the case. And so, people do ask me what's one of the things that's holding video commerce from breaking through even larger. It's simply this misconception that it's time consuming and expensive. It's not. The tools and companies to do it are out there.
We also need to be pushing and enabling our marketing and our content generation teams to be actively going out and searching for these new platforms. Because I know there's a proliferation, a year and a half, 2 years ago, as all the PE VC money was pouring into all this tech. Well, now as it starts to get held back, not just like on the brand side, like you were mentioning, but I mean, people are really looking for any tech that's popped up to be post Series A and profitable to get the next round of investment. We're seeing a lot of the players who aren't going to make it fall away, and then the people who are going to make it has got really great tech. They're either being consolidated or they're growing, and you're going to get a lot more hits than misses that you've gotten over the past few years, and you have to be going out and trying them, right? The tech is there.
It's healthy to see that consolidation with these tech companies and the takeovers, and very healthy. I mean, there's another company I like that I'm working with called Loop AI. Again, they make it incredibly easy to do live streaming, at a very low cost. I could go down the list, but I just know the tools, the companies, the technologies are there to do this. Another company I love is Flowcode. They're the company that does QR commerce, QR marketing better than I think anybody out there. To do Flowcode, campaigns, incredibly powerful. And so it's just, a matter of coming back to the steps of, understanding what is immersive and experiential commerce, understanding who the players are out there that can make it easy and low cost to do it for you, setting up a video commerce strategy and saying, now, how do we integrate that with the traditional stuff that we're doing that we have to keep doing? We still need to kind of pay the piper at Amazon, and we still need to do paid and work on optimization and organic. I'm not saying this is a complete replacement, but if you just stick with the plan you have now, the trend line is clear. The CAC is too high, the logistics are too high, the tech costs are too high, and, you're going to see a smaller and smaller and smaller group of online sellers be margin, positive and profitable. And that's going to hurt everybody. And so this applies to the big guys as well as the startups. Embrace it now, explore it.
Yeah. I on the flip side, it's one more thing for the marketing teams, right? And that's what's tough. I mean, that's why people like you come in, right? I mean, that's the reality, is as this middle layer has been kind of carved out right now and everybody's overworked. It's why you have a thriving business, right? Is
listen,
you're able to step in and say, hey, by the way, this is the new way that you should be thinking about doing things. And here's all the tools and the assessment around how it gets done. And people just need it.
Yeah. And there is no maybe group of executives, professionals that I have more sympathy for right now than CMOs and marketing teams.
Right. Totally agree.
They're being asked to do things, and a number of things that no one human being or two or even five can do. The amount of information there is to absorb and apply, the strategies, the tactics. I mean, if you look at, job descriptions that are being put out there for CMOs that are 7 pages long and, require you to be an expert in everything from Newtonian physics to, to the shop, the doll buying habits of 12-year-olds and everything in between, it's crazy. And so trust me, that's who we're out there serving, those CMOs, those CDOs, those CTOs, who are so overwhelmed, they may not be seeing, the changes that are happening on the edges, right? And change can come from top down, bottom up, but the greatest change always creeps in from the edges. And, if we can help illuminate where those changes are. And like you said, you're saying it's one more thing to add. I'd say, well, take a look at what you should be eliminating. Yeah. Why are you wasting so much of your ad spend on, digital media that doesn't produce ROI or ROAS? Why are you, so I think it's less than about, adding. It's more about what can we eliminate and replace to get the job done right.
Awesome. Well, Michael, thanks for your time today. This went by incredibly quickly. Thanks for all the help you're giving all the brands in the network. Really appreciate you and all that you do for it. And I know I'm going to let you get on to your next meeting and help out some more brands. But again, thanks so much for your time today. Any last key takeaways as we wrap up here?
Yeah, I think the big one for me is that e-commerce is undergoing a disruption, revolution, and evolution that is akin to the disruption and evolution and revolution that e-commerce foisted on traditional retail over the last 20 years. And if you're not paying attention to where consumers are, if you're not paying attention to the fact that the funnel model is disintegrating before our eyes, if you're not paying attention to the fact that people are tired of two-dimensional, non-immersive, non-human touch digital shopping, if you're not paying attention to how you must integrate a singular experience between online and offline, then you're sitting in a tough position. And I would encourage you to think about those things for the next couple of quarters and the years ahead.
Yeah. Awesome, my friend. Well, thanks so much. And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Aaron.